Before we get started, I'd like to say a few things. Firstly, thank you so much for joining me on the journey of this channel. I've really appreciated that. I love reading comments, and I just love interacting with subscribers or people who aren't subscribed but comment frequently. And also, liking, commenting, and subscribing really does help spread this channel quite a bit. Now, secondary thing, this video will be a two-parter. The first part will be our traditional review video, or just going to go over how this round compares to others. However, the second one, since this is Yugoslavian ammo from the early 1950s, we're going to be comparing it to Yugoslavian ammo from the late 1970s. Generally speaking, the stuff from the early 50s is not seen as very high quality, but the stuff from the late 70s is. So, seeing as how these are both made in the same country, I thought it would be interesting to compare the two. Now, that video will be out next week, and I will link it on the screen right now once I do release that. However, I do still recommend watching this video completely before you go on to that one.
Well, I'm trying a new shooting location today. Now there's a few things to tell you about. First, there will be some background noise. You will hear some interesting sounds. It is sandhill crane season here in Nebraska. Not hunting season, but about 600,000 to 1 million come to my part of the country, and they rest here for a few weeks. So it's a really beautiful time of the year, but there will be some strange noises coming in the background. Secondly, I'm trying a new location, and it's kind of swampy. So there is a horrible smell, and I am sinking into the ground. But hopefully I will be able to shoot this Yugoslavian ammo from the 1950s before I sink in all the way. I have my chronograph set up, and I'll tell you the results as I'm shooting. $2,540. $2,476. $2,466. $2,520. $2,517. All right, I have another clip. $2,434. $2,485. $2,405. $2,472. All right, let's shoot the last one. 2,463.
So that was our time on the range. The velocity low was 2405, and the velocity high was 2540. So that leads to a total spread of 135 from the lowest one to the highest one, and that leads to an average of 2,477.8 feet per second. Now, that number is on the higher end of the rounds we fired, but it is still within reason. It's not extreme. So what that means is that this ammo is shooting a little bit hot, but it's not so hot that you should be worried about using it in a well-maintained and properly functioning firearm. That is, with exception of something like a G88 that isn't necessarily meant for these higher pressure rounds anyway. Just to compare this to some others, our Yugoslavian ammo from 1979 fired at 2,430 feet per second, so that's about 40 feet per second lower. Our PPU ammo that is modern fired at 2,305 feet per second, which is about 180 feet per second lower, which is quite significant. And our Greek ammo fired at 2,471 feet per second, which is 6-ish feet per second lower. So as you can see, there are some rounds that are around the same pressure of this one. However, this one is pretty highly pressured, but not as highly pressured as that S&B ammo that we talked about a few months ago. The modern production stuff that was soft point. That stuff was really high pressure. What was somewhat surprising to me was that we had no duds or hang fires with this ammo. which in my experience with another box of similar ammo that I had in the past, made around the same time. It was before I had the channel, so I wasn't quite filming, but it did have 2 duds in that box. So I could have just gotten really lucky with this box. It could have just been this batch. So because of that, if you have experience with this ammo, I would be very interested in seeing your comments below. So a viewer sent me the ammo we are about to review today, and he asked that I opened it on the channel. So thank you so much. Now, since I don't normally do unboxings, I wanted to take this opportunity to talk about 2 things. Firstly, if you have a product that you would like to send me so that I can review it, I have an email in the description of most of my videos, and I prefer that all of the communication happens there. That email is 8mmMauserman@gmail.com. Secondly, I wanted to use this opportunity to show you guys how to package ammo. So the first thing you want to do is you want to have this sticker on 2 opposite sides. He only has it on 1, and generally speaking, that's fine. The UPS website says 2 opposite sides though. Now, all ammo shipping needs to go through UPS, FedEx, or another third-party carrier. It cannot go through the Postal Service. So let's cut this open. Now, whatever you ship it in, it does need to be a strong box. And because it's ammo, you want to firmly pack whatever you are shipping. Bags inside of bags inside of bags. All right, so this is what the top sides of these boxes look like. If I remember correctly, they say 7.9mm metallic cartridge and 15 count. That is that word right there. All right, so we can see 12/1953. And if we open this up, that's, I think, is really cool that they have this stamped text inside of here. And the head stamp has a number 12, a star on each side, and then 53. That 12 looks like it's a lot number, but what it actually is a factory code. Now, let's talk about the history. Yugoslavia produced a variety of different ammo from multiple different factories. But this ammo was produced in Factory 12. Factory 12 is in a place called Kanjic, which is in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Now, this particular ammo is made from tombak, which is a mixture of copper and zinc, which means that it's not magnetic. I would bet that's the casing, but the core is still lead. Speaking of the bullets, let's talk about those next. Our bullet weight low was 197 grains, and our bullet weight high was 200.1 grains. So that leads to a total spread of 3.1 grains from the lowest one to the highest one. And that leads to an average of 198.79 grains. Now, you may have noticed that these bullets were inconsistent. In fact, they're the second most inconsistent bullet that we've measured in this series. The first was that S&B ammo that we talked about already. Now, that may have been because that ammo has a lead tip, and when I hit my inertial bullet puller, the tips did get messed up. Maybe they lost some material, and that's why. This ammo does not have that excuse. Before we start talking about the bullets, I'd like to show you something about the brass, and it is that it is heat treated. So you can see that there is a line around right here where they heat treat the forward part of this brass case. Now, the mouth got a little bit wider when I pulled the bullets out. Don't focus on that. Just focus on the coloration here. Here is another case next to it that doesn't have that. This particular is Greek ammo from 1940. All right, let's talk about the bullets. As you can see, it's just a normal pointed bullet, and it does have a boat tail. And you can see there is a pretty firm line going around right here that the case tightens around. It has what appears to be a lead core and a bimetal jacket, but neither of those 2 metals are steel. So if I hold this up to it, it does not attract. Now, what I have over here is I have a Greek bullet from 1940, and you can tell that it is just a little bit longer in this area right here. So most 8mm Mauser bullets that are a boat tail like this are this size. This one happens to be just a little bit shorter. Next, let's talk about our powder. Our powder measured from 43.9 to 44.7, and that leads to a total spread of 0.8 grains from the lowest one to the highest one. That also gives us an average of 44.41 grains. This is within reason and in line with other rounds that we've tested. This appears to be a standard flake powder. It's nothing out of the ordinary in this series. We've seen it many times before. Next week, we're going to talk about other Yugoslavian ammo from the 70s, component by component, and compare that to this ammo. However, right now, here's what we have. The first thing I'd like to talk about is reliability. Like I said, I had perfect reliability with this batch of ammo. However, I have heard some other stories from people who have had less favorable experiences with this ammo in the past. This tells me one of 2 things. One, I might have just gotten really lucky, and of the 10 rounds that I fired in this test, all of them worked properly. However, 2 I think is more accurate. Probably the case is that some of this ammo was not stored correctly and some of it was stored correctly. And because of that, there's a discrepancy in the quality that you will find with different Yugoslavian ammo from the 50s. The second thing I'd like to talk about is that this ammo is corrosive. So what that means is you'll just want to pour water down the bore or follow your own corrosive ammo cleaning procedure after you shoot this ammo. The third thing I'd like to talk about is one of the most common complaints with this ammo, and that is split cases. Many people will report times that they have had split cases with this ammo and the issues that that has caused. Now, personally, I have a theory about this. The generally stated theory that I've heard is that this ammo from the 50s has a thinner case wall than other 8mm ammo. So because of that, it's more likely to have case ruptures than other 8mm ammo is. My theory for that goes back to the video we talked about last week. If you remember, last week our video was on the differences in the bolt between Yugoslavian Mausers and other Mausers. Now keep in mind this is Yugoslavian ammo. The Yugoslavian Mausers have a little cutout in the chamber face, and what that's designed to do is allow the bolt to go almost into the chamber a little bit and create a firmer seal around the back of the case. The major difference comes down to, in a normal Mauser, a little bit of the case is exposed, and in a Yugoslavian Mauser, almost none of it is. It might be that since this ammo was made for Yugoslavian Mausers, they made that case wall thinner because it wouldn't be an issue with their guns. Now, I would love to test this, but in order to test it, I would probably want about 1,000 rounds and put them through my Yugoslavian Mauser and my Turkish Mauser that doesn't have that extra cutout and see if I have a discrepancy in case failures there. Or I can ask you guys, if you've ever had a case failure with this ammo, let us know what rifle you were using. That would be very interesting to me, and maybe we could test this theory over time. Now you may have noticed that this is some of the most widely available and the cheapest 8mm surplus on the market right now. And because of that, you will come across it many places. So you're probably wondering, should I buy it? And I don't really know if that's something that I can answer. Like I said, I personally have had differences and experiences with this ammo from different batches. Some were very positive and some were kind of negative. Also, if that case failure issue is something you really want to avoid, you might want to stay away from this ammo depending on the rifle that you're shooting it in. Ultimately, that's a decision that is up to you and not to me. If I happen to see this ammo somewhere for cheap, I'm going to be buying it personally, if for nothing else, to test a larger sample size and then come back to you guys with more data. So I hope this video has been helpful for you to decide if this is an ammo that you want to purchase. Be sure to stay tuned for the second part of this video, where I'm going to be comparing this shoddy-ish ammo from the 1950s to what many people see as some of the best surplus ammo available from the 1970s. That being said though, I am 8mm Mauser man, and I fired Yugoslavian ammo from the 1950s through my 24-47, and I lived on.
Which proves it's hard to get the best of a man named John.